Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Gulfstream today on this Wednesday afternoon as we get ready to kick off another week of live racing. Beautiful day, as you can see here at beautiful Gulfstream Park with 10 races coming up today in just under an hour. I'm Acacia Courtney. Glad to have you with us this afternoon as we get ready to dive in, have some housekeeping to take care of first and foremost as the Fountain of Youth now in the rearview mirror, and we're in the final month of the Gulfstream Park Championship meet. Pretty crazy to think about how quickly it has gone by. But as always, we're just a couple of days out now from Friday when there's always a lot of excitement going on here. And I must admit, I'm up for Beat the Expert this week. So you have a couple of days to get those handicapping hats on, get your picks in. Always play for free on the Gulfstream Park website. Go to gulfstreampark.com. And you'll have a chance to try and pick more winners than me and win one of those cool Gulfstream Park polos, as Ron Nicoletti always likes to say. On Friday, we'll also have the Stronach 5 back in play with all of the Stronach tracks. Race number 8 at Laurel Park will kick off the sequence. We at Gulfstream Park here will have 2 races going on, and we'll also have California in the mix with Santa Anita and Golden Gate Field. Starts just a little bit before 4 p.m. on Friday, March 5th. But looking ahead to today, we'll have a big guaranteed pool in the Rainbow Six coming up a little bit later after in race number 5. But we do kick off the day with one of 2 pick 5s. I have a ticket to show you as we'll take a look at my $36 play. I'm too deep here in the opener, not including the current favorite, the number 10 Super Ligera. First off the claim for Mike DiPaolo. We'll talk about that horse in just a moment. I'm too deep there in the opener, too deep in race number 2, one for Antonio Sano and one for Juan Avila, who of course pulled a big upset on Saturday with old Bodemeister in the Devonadale. 3 deep in race number 3. You've got some class droppers in there that I think should make things interesting, using the rematch horses in Ellie Reese Aston and Yellowstone Girl in the 4th race, and then 3 deep in the 5th for a $36 play. Kicking things off here in the opener, though, it is a mile on the turf, and this maiden claiming for $16,000. This is for the 3-year-old fillies. A couple of scratches in here. Scratch the 11 and 12 out of the body of race. So do note that the 13 does draw in and will run, and then scratch the rest of the also eligibles. I started it off with the number 5, Caronville. This day and age, you don't want to be a part of Caronville, but this one is getting onto the turf for the first time after the race in her debut was taken off the grass. I found this stat on Armando de la Cerda, which I thought was kind of interesting. First time on the turf with maiden claimers. He does have good numbers. 18% in the win column, 35% in the money, and it's a good ROI of $3.48. 5-2 right now, I think, with Irad Ortiz in the saddle, and this one being a second-time starter by Verrazano. Might take a little bit more money as we get closer to post time. The number 9, Dauphine, I thought was interesting. Second time out for Michael Matz. Didn't do anything in her debut, but the barn is about 21% with second-time starters in the maiden ranks, and then the 10, Super Ligera, who early on is your favorite. Ran a respectable, fine 3rd on her debut, was claimed for Mike DiPaolo, comes back at the same level of competition. She was a little bit rank early on, so we'll see if she settles a bit more now, second time out. Moving on to race number 2, a mile on the main track for this 12-5, non-winners of 2 in life. This is for 3-year-olds and up, everybody looking for the second win of their career. And I did kick things off with the number 6, This Dude's No Fool, to the outside. Back on the dirt, a drop in class. I think that this is just kind of the surface that she prefers, and also the right level for her. She is stretching out in distance to the mile for the first time, but I am encouraged that going 7 furlongs at Gulfstream Park West against Tougher back in October, she did run a very good second, though, as the favorite that day. So I'm not really worried about the stretch out to the mile in here. As mentioned, Juan Avila and Edgar Zayas teamed up for the big win with Hole Bodemeister on Saturday, and I think a potent duo that you have to keep an eye on. Not to mention she's never run this low before. She drops in for the 12-5. The number 1 dropped Anchor, though. This one for Antonio Sano, one of 2. We'll backtrack to her last race on February 3rd, where she did finish second by just half a length. She was the favorite that day. She's easy to spot. The gray call by Anchor down, as that's pretty makes sense, being a gray, being by Anchor down, was beaten by a big price in the 20-1 shot. Fitz's Mo on the inside. So That's definitely a question for me, as this horse had won so impressively, switching to the main track 2 starts back, and then was just kind of outgamed to the wire by that big long shot on the inside. He does have some speed. Peruvian Dancer's also in that race. Peruvian Dancer tried to cut back to sprinting last time out, and now will stretch back out once again to the mile. So I'm not really quite sure if I trust either of the Sano runners in here, but this does feel almost kind of like a race that's primed for an Antonio Sano runner, and we do know that dropped anchor can handle the mile distance. Finally, the number 3, Hickerson, is first off the claim for Kent Sweezy, who does have 2 off the claim. This one just seemed to have run slightly better than X-Top, who did just break his maiden. Up next will be race number 3, a mile and a 16th on the turf, and this maiden claiming for $25,000. This is for 3-year-olds. I started it off with the number 5, Big Blue, who does get his claiming tag cut in half, and I realized that to date, he really hasn't done anything special on the racetrack. He did finish 6th 2 starts back, and what I thought was actually a pretty solid race for the level, beaten just a length and a half after having a little bit of traffic trouble. Last time out was just a bad performance. I thought he was kind of flat. Did run well at Indiana Grand, finishing 2nd in Special Weight Company. So I think just the drop. Corey Lannery's been having a kind of under the radar but very strong meet, I think particularly on the turf course here. And this one, again, just a new face for the level. One horse that's not a new face for the level is the number 6, Congrats Again. Dropped to this level last time out with Irad Ortiz, who does stay aboard. This is start number 12 for Congrats Again, but it's only his 3rd start on the turf. So that's what encouraged me about him. And he just had nowhere to run last time out. Encouraged watching the replay of that race. And 2 starts back was the first time on grass, was a little bit tougher competition. So I think that this could maybe just be the right spot for a horse that has had many chances, but again, not as many on the turf course. The number 3, City Magic. I included this one in a pick 5 ticket because he debuted for $25,000 for a barn that's not known for first-time starters. Ran a good 3rd that day, stepped it up against much tougher last time, and now drops back down and has Paco Lopez in the saddle. I think he might be a sneaky in this race. As we turn the page on to race number 4, a mile on the main track in this $20,000 claiming race for the 3-year-old fillies. I kicked it off with the number 3, Ellie Reese Aston, who's rematching with Yellowstone Girl. We'll go back to their last start from February 7th. Yellowstone Girl was the winner first off the claim for Leon McKansas at a big price. Both of them beat the heavy favorite 10-Pin Alley, who's also in this race and looking to make amends this afternoon. But Yellowstone Girl just seemed to kind of have the jump. It was forwardly placed. We did have Ellie Reese Aston close on the outside and on the inside, go up the rail and finish 2nd. That was also her first time going the mile distance, and while I think that there's a chance for her to make amends today and kind of turn the tables and get the win, the distance is a little bit of a concern for me for the number 3, Ellie Reese Aston. However, it's a reclaim by Safi Joseph Jr. and owner Troy Lang, so I think that that's always something you have to pay attention to. And she's had a very sharp workout, going 35-2 for 3 furlongs since she was claimed and moved back to the Safi Joseph barn back at the beginning of February. So let's see if she can handle the distance. We know Yellowstone Girl does have the speed. You've also got the 2, Baby Lion, who was a runaway winner last time out with Tammy Levy. Now first off the claim with Kelly Breen. And that will be the first half of the card. We'll take a quick time out. When we come back to kick off the 5th race, we'll talk a little bit about the Rainbow 6. Welcome back to Gulfstream today on this beautiful Wednesday afternoon. I'm Acacia Courtney. We're getting ready to kick off the Rainbow Six here in race number 5, which is our next order of business. $950,000 guaranteed in the jackpot pool. Just amazing how quickly this pool has continued to grow. The sequence again does kick off in race 5 today, and just a 20-cent based wager. I have a $38.40 ticket. I wanted to spread in the first leg here in the 5th race. I just didn't see any speed signed on in this spot, so I do have a bit of a long shot play. I've got 2 horses and second-time starter, Well, She's Handsome, in race number 6, as well as the class dropper Pulling Strings. 2 deep in the 7th as well. I think Dundalk could potentially wire the field, but did not want to leave out the Mike Maker trained second mate. That's a nice race. Looking forward to that one. 2 deep in the 8th race, the feature today in race number 9, 1.5 miles on turf. Love these races. They're always a lot of fun. And I'm 3 deep in there, and then wrap things up with the number 2 Frenchman Street and the 4 discretionary mark there in the nightcap for a $38.40 play. But again, it does kick off here in the 5th race, and the biggest question for me about this race was how it was going to play out. Maybe it's not quite as noticeable as it was in a couple weeks past, but to me, speed has still really been carrying on the turf course. So I was trying to envision how this race might play out, and all of the horses that I thought could be major players seemed to be big closers. I ended up landing on the number 6, Finding Mischief, who I believe is 20-1 on the morning line. So this is my long shot play of the day. And I know that his 2 turf races have, to be blunt, have been bad, but last time out was off of a layoff from December of 2019 to February of 2021, over 14 months that he was on the bench, came back against Maiden 50 in actually a pretty salty field for the level, and my comments were that he just wasn't fit enough, he needed a race, and might be one who could take a step forward the next time out. He gets his claiming tag cut in half to the $25,000, and he's second off that significant layoff. He also has some early speed, and we've seen this barn, Jenna Antonucci, have some horses that are very quick out of the gate, control things, and Lionel Reyes has been a good long shot rider here throughout the championship meet as well. The number 8, Red Flag Alert, is probably the quote-unquote horse to beat, just given the class that he's kept. 2 maiden special weight races up in New York so far, as he'll take a drop in class now to the $25,000 off of that layoff, a $600,000 son of Ghost Sapper. But I did see George Weaver very good with horses dropping in class and very good with horses off layoffs. When you combine it together, after 180 plus days going from maiden special weight to maiden claiming, just 1 for 15 over the past 5 years, and 6 for 15 in the money. So I thought maybe I could find one who might be a little bit of a better price, but wondering if Tyler Gaffalione will be aggressive with that one as they come out of the gate. The 7, Big Perm, always takes money, always runs his race, but 6 out of his starts have been in the money finishes, while he is 0 for 10. Moving on to race number 6, this does kick off the late pick 5 today. It's 5.5 furlongs for this $12,500 maiden claiming race for the 3-year-old fillies. The number 3, Well, She's Handsome, was where I did land. She was the favorite first time out in what seemed to be a kind of soft maiden race, but Mike Yates, very good with first-time starters, particularly in dirt sprints. Keeps Miguel Vasquez now has a start under her belt. I think she makes a lot of sense. The number 4, Pulling Strings, will take a lot of money as she plummets down from the $40,000 level to the $12,500. If you see the short comments stumble at the start and bump at the 3/16 pole, she did have a little bit of trouble at the start, but in the stretch at the 3/16, there was actually a horse that lost its rider, and that forced Pulling Strings and a couple of others to really veer pretty sharply and bump into another foe to avoid the fallen jock. So that's what the trouble line was there in that race. But the blinkers do go on off the layoff and does have Irad Ortiz aboard. The number 7, Fior de Latte, I think back on the dirt, it's a drop in class, just given the dirt form makes some sense in this spot. Moving on to race number 7, this is a nice race, $35,000 claiming event, 1 mile on the turf for 4-year-olds and upward. I kicked it off with the number 2, Dundalk, because I thought that he could be the controlling speed in here for trainer Kathleen O'Connell. We'll backtrack to his last race, as it was kind of a very tight finish, as he was beaten just by half a length to finish 4th. As we pick it up at the quarter pole, he's hounded for a lot of the way by Fig Jelly, but again, was the controlling pace and did manage to hold on pretty gamely, as Blameless, who was had some back class, was the one that did end up getting up to win. But all in all, I thought that this was a very resilient effort from Dundalk, who's in on the inside in the red sleeves and white cap. Horses closing to the outside, held on pretty well. Again, beaten just by half a length to be fourth. So let's see if he can hold on and be the controlling speed in this spot. The number 8 to the outside in second, Mate, is taking a drop in class for Mike Maker. Last time out in the Sunshine Turf, ran 6th, beaten just 2.5 lengths, but that was behind Venezuelan Hug, who did come back to win the Grade 3 Canadian Turf on Saturday. So obviously faced some good company, and it's Mike Maker and Irad Ortiz. You certainly can't leave them out. And then you have the old class horse, the number 1, Salute the Colonel, who's off of just a little bit over a 1-year layoff. The biggest question with this guy is that he seems to really flourish in those longer races. A mile might be a bit short for him, and he is dropping in out of stakes company for the first time in quite a while, or a tough allowance company at least. So not quite sure what we're going to get with him as his last 2 races before the layoff were disappointing, but he was running against some really nice horses that day. Turning the page now to race number 8, a mile and a 16th on the main track, 62.50, non-winners of 2 in life for 4-year-olds and upward. I kick things off with the number 4, One-Eyed Jack, and we'll go back to his last start, as he was certainly a little bit of a head-scratcher. Todd Pletcher had this horse. At one point, he seemed like he might have a pretty promising career. He tried the turf a couple times after that big layoff. He moved him back to the dirt last time and dropped in for the 12-5. He's the number 1 here. He was just second best to Churchill's Victory, who was 16-1 on the board. But all in all, he ran a fine second. He kind of flattened out a little bit. He was being asked by Irad Ortiz, just not really closing too much. So to me, this race was significant because he's been claimed by Saffie Joseph Jr. for Frank Calabrese. They drop him in for 62.50. It's just being realistic, putting a horse where it looks like he can potentially win. So I think that if he can't win here, this is definitely the softest spot that he will have found. Irad Ortiz, meanwhile, does land on the number 6, Excalibur. And this is a horse who has been at this level already and had a good effort 2 starts back and kind of a disappointing effort last time out, but I do think that he is one that certainly fits in here, and we know he can handle the distance. Race number 9 is up next. This is that 1.5-mile turf race. Looking forward to seeing this one. Allowance optional claiming for fillies and mares, 4-year-olds and upward. And for me, the one I want in this spot is the number 9, Margaret's Joy. I think given some of the company that's in this race, she might actually go off at a little bit of a price, but she comes out of a 3rd place finish behind Counterparty Risk in the Grade 3 Endeavor at Tampa last time out. That was a very strong field that she faced. 2 back here at Gulfstream. She had a nightmare trip behind what I think is a very talented filly in Kissing Frogs. Had no place to run. She's a closer. That's the big thing with her. I know that she did break her maiden at a mile, but she's run well going longer too, including that 1 and 5/16 race at Kentucky Downs back in September. Junior Alvarado going to be aboard for Michelle Nihei. I think that she is a very interesting one in this spot. The number 5, She Throws Heat, beaten by Cristal last time out, who finally got back on track. This filly broke her maiden at 1 and 1/8 up at Belmont Park. She's one that definitely wants the distance as well. There seems to have been a little bit of a difficult filly to kind of get to live up to those expectations and being the favorite in her last couple. But it is Shug McGahee and Jose Ortiz, which has been a very powerful duo in the last few, especially last month or so here at Gulfstream, I'd say. The number 8, Valletta, meanwhile, broke her maiden 2 back, then went right up to win a starter allowance. She's stretching out in distance, and I think will be tested for some class today. But she's in great form right now, and wanted to show this race from her last time out on January 21st, because as we look at the start of the race, she's the number 3, and she just totally loses any position, has to check back pretty sharply here, being up on heels, having to steady out, and she does have the ability to kind of be more forwardly placed, and I think that kind of tactical running style that she does have actually suits this 1.5-mile distance quite well. She's hustled up. She's dueling with Camellia Gal here. They're setting the pace. They both end up finishing 1-2, but Valletta just kind of outgames her. She's in great form right now. I thought this was a very good effort. Obviously, the barn, Danny Gargan's barn for Spadali Family Racing has been going very well lately. We'll see how she handles the stretch out in distance, but given any trouble at the break, I think, again, her running style should suit this stretch out, as I'm really looking forward to this 9th race. I love these marathon races on the turf. We've got one more race to go, 5 furlongs on the grass here for this open $16,000 claiming race for 4-year-olds and up. I landed on the number 2, Frenchman Street, who feels like he's been around forever. He's well known around these parts, making start number 32 now. He's a reclaim for trainer Saffie Joseph Jr. This is actually the second time he's gone in to claim him back, as he had him at the end of 2019, had him for one start back in October of this year, was claimed away, had one race with Carlos David, and picked up again at GPW by Saffie for Frank Calabrese as well. They leave him in for this $16,000 tag, and I think he's a pretty snug fit in here, as he did run against 2 next out winners in that Gulfstream Park West Turf Sprint last time out. The number 4, Discretionary Mark, finished a good second last time with his first race off the claim for Kelly Breen. Irad Ortiz going to be aboard this one. And the horse that beat him is also in this race, the number 9, Dugout. That was with Larry Ravelli. Now he's first off the claim for Amador Sanchez, who does have strong numbers off the claim. And Edgar Zayas will be aboard that one, who does have quite a bit of speed. I guess the wild card in the race is the number 10, Fixed Point, who back in 2020 was running against some pretty salty horses. He was 100-1 in the World of Trouble Sprint back in January of last year. But he was running in that race and keeping some strong company. I guess the biggest question is, what does he do off the layoff for trainer Phil Serpy? Well, that's it for races today, but we do have the lightning round still to come here on this Wednesday afternoon. We'll get into that quickly. As we usually do at the start of each racing week, we'll check in with the standings here as far as the championship meet does go, with just 1 month left. And surprise, surprise, it's Todd Pletcher and Irad Ortiz still holding strong. Todd Pletcher a 10-win cushion ahead of Saffie Joseph Jr., who's continued to have a very strong meet. Mike Maker there in third. Antonio Sano having a great championship meet as well. And Bill Mott with a couple of nice wins this weekend, including Annex in the Palm Beach. He's in the top 5 with 19 victories right now, while it's all about Irad Ortiz as far as the jockey standings do go. He passed 100 wins last week. He's at 107. Luis Saez in second, but back there at 79. And Luis Saez, if you're looking for him, he did go to Oaklawn Park this weekend, past weekend, to ride Essential Quality in the Southwest, so he will have to quarantine a few days before he's able to come back riding here at Gulfstream Park, and of course follow all those travel protocols since riding out of town. Tyler Gaffalione, Paco Lopez, and Edgar Zayas, who did pull that big upset in the Devona Dale on Saturday. But looking at our local jockeys here, and what a strong jockey colony we have at one of our sister tracks, Santa Anita out in California. We did see a special milestone for jockey Juan Hernandez, reaching 2,000 career victories. Big congratulations to Juan, who was the leading rider at Golden Gate, shipped his tack down to Santa Anita and now is second in the standings there. And congratulations, Juan, on reaching that special milestone. Wanted to backtrack a little bit to Saturday. I mentioned some of those big races quite a bit, but one of the maiden performances we saw on Saturday afternoon was from Saffie Joseph Jr.'s Collaborate, who just won so impressively at even money in his second career start and stretching out in distance. And it looks like a couple of options are on the table, but the Florida Derby could be the lead option for Collaborate, as he just have to walk out of his stall and get some major Kentucky Derby points here. So that could be exciting to see a new face in the mix on that trail to the Kentucky Derby. Internationally, one of the all-time fan favorites and tremendous race mares, Enable, has been scanned and is in full to Kingman. Pretty exciting about this mating here. She just had a tremendous career. We got a chance to see her here in the U.S. in the 2018 Breeders' Cup Turf. There she is, winning over Magical, who also went to have a sensational career, but of course trained by John Gosden. That's Frankie Dettori in the saddle aboard the mighty Enable. She really was just so special, and looking forward to watching her babies now on the racetrack. As in a couple of weeks, on March 16th and 17th, we'll have the OBS March 2-year-old sale, the first 2-year-old sale of the season, and there'll be something special happening for the final hip going through the ring. This is a look at a sculpture he's named Clock Clockwork Fury. He was at Journeyman Stud owned by Brent and Crystal Furnong. They've donated him back to be auctioned off as the final hip going through the OBS sales ranks. Proceeds for Clockwork Fury will go to Florida Thoroughbred Charities, of which the TRF Second Chances programs are one of the recipients, as well as the Marion Cultural Alliance, which supports arts programs in the area too. So make sure you head on over to OBS or TRF websites to get a little bit more information. Pretty fun to follow, or if you might be interested in bidding as well. As that'll do it for today's Wednesday show. Hope you'll stay with us. We have some great racing coming up this afternoon in just a little bit over a half an hour. I'm Acacia Courtney. Appreciate you joining us as we'll send it up to Pete Aiello for Scratches and Changes.